Hey everyone, thanks for joining me for another review, and we're going on to escape rooms today with Escape Tales: The Awakening. Ooh, spooky. Well, spooky is actually not too far off the truth on this one. If you've played any escape room game, you know the story. You go in, you solve a bunch of puzzles, try and do well at the end. We've had Deckscape, we've had Escape Room, we've had Exit, we've had Unlock, you name it, we've had a billion of these things. It's getting to the point of roll and writes where I'm like, oh god, another one? But my feelings of most escape rooms are that I like them, but I'm starting to burn out a little bit on them, even the real life ones. And each one of them is good, but has their own problems, whether it's a component thing, or a gameplay thing, or a lack of narrative. You know, there's always some niggling issue I have with them. So what is Escape Tales: The Awakening trying to do? Well, it's another escape room style game, so more puzzles, but this one is coming to have a stronger narrative function. You have an app which doesn't really provide any ambient music or anything, but it allows you to solve the puzzles. But what this is attempting to do is say, well, you can have the puzzles, but we'll have a story that's interesting, with multiple endings that will keep you maybe wanting to play this another time to see what ending you can get. And it's like, okay, bold claim, let's go with it and find out. So with this, you pretty much have a card-based system where you are flipping cards, you're building like a map with two cards, and you have a paragraph book, a bit like the sort of choose your own adventure thing, where based on where you go on the map card, you will read a paragraph in the book. It will tell you to take cards out of a couple of decks, and from those you'll be told maybe that you need more cards for a particular puzzle, or go read paragraph 151, etc. And as you go through the paragraphs and tell the story, you'll lay out different cards, investigate different rooms, and so on and so forth. The concept of the story here, and I will try to give like 99% no spoilers, is effectively you are a single father caring for your daughter, and your daughter has entered this coma and won't come out of it. And somebody, for some reason, just happens to provide you with an occult book. You know, you might as well call it the Necronomicon in this case, and says, follow the ritual in this book, you'll be able to get your daughter back. And the idea is that you perform the ritual and go through the story as the ritual unfolds. So it is definitely very occultish, and we'll get more onto that later. So, talk about it in more detail. Duration. This is probably the longest escape room game I've ever played. That's not necessarily a bad thing though. I binged the whole lot solo by myself. I didn't time exactly how long it took, but I feel like I was playing it for somewhere between 2 to 3 hours solo. You know, there is a lot in this game puzzle-wise, and a lot to sort of keep you going, reading and doing things. So this is actually one of the first escape rooms where I feel that you could play it in more than one sitting. You could play it 90 minutes and save it, and then play for the rest of the 90 minutes. And you can even write in the back of the book how you want to save your game, like what cards you've got, etc., if you want to pack it away and store it somewhere else. But it did take me a while to get through this, easily at least twice the length of a typical exit room game, and probably 3 times the length of a typical unlock game. There's definitely plenty of content in here, and if you are going to binge it like I did, it's going to take you a fair while, and I think with 2 or more players, you're probably going to want to do it in multiple sittings. Never a bad thing, you get more for your money. With solo, you can do it in 2 sittings, or just binge it like I did, and it seems to do just fine. For ease of play, this is very straightforward. I mean, you've got the app is basically just press a button, tells you what what sort of code you're entering, and then you can either take hints, or you can find out how many cards you need in order to perform the test, and just find out the answer if need be. That's all it does. So the app is easy enough to use, but you have to go to the website of Escape Tales: The Awakening in order to get it. It's not downloaded to your phone like Google Play, for example. But the rules for this are straightforward. I mean, if you've played any of the other escape room games, you know what you're getting into, and you know how card-based escape rooms work. Flip cards, you take the cards, which could be anything from items to map cards to story-based things, etc. But there's no confusing iconography, there's no confusing rules as such as to what does this card do, what does this map mean, you know, it's pretty straightforward. So the ease of play comes more into how easy you can get through the various shall we say, puzzles themselves, but we'll get onto that a bit later. So all in all, yeah, families or anybody who's into escape room games will be able to pick this up pretty easily and be pretty much off and going straight away. In fact, I dare say you don't even need to read the rule book. The initial game has a tutorial section which you can skip on the subsequent play by starting at a certain paragraph, but the tutorial basically takes you through the start of the ritual and you investigate everything, you kind of see everything that you can in the game in terms of cards and what types of things can come up, and by the time you've gone through that, you've pretty much taught yourself what you need to know in the game, so it doesn't really matter if you've not read the rulebook. It's, learn it how you like, but yeah, this is pretty easy to keep up and get going. Now, tactics and strategy, well, obviously there's no strategy, it's an escape room game, and tactics is even harder to describe. But in terms of the puzzles, this is definitely a very math-orientated escape room, which for me is good. I'm an accountant, so math-based puzzles I enjoy more. But if numerical literacy, is that the word, or mathematical problems aren't your thing, then you might either struggle or maybe not get as much enjoyment out of this. But there was definitely quite a few which felt like it was definitely on a mathematical theme. There were very few that I can think of, if any, that were based primarily on a word puzzle. I think there was like a riddle or two, but that was kind of about it, really. Now, in terms of how easy it is to solve the puzzles, I felt that the vast majority of them were a good challenge, but not unfair. So, I felt that some of them I got like, boom, like that. Just got them, and it's like, yes, and you feel smart when doing it. A few others, I thought like, cool, blimey, this is taking me a while. You can get hints. There's anywhere between 1 to 3 hints on various puzzles, and I have no problems taking hints in games if it just points me in the right direction. And frankly, the first hint that you kick on is kind of a waste of time anyway, because it pretty much sort of tells you the bleeding obvious. So it's hardly that necessary. But the thing I wasn't a fan of was there were 2 puzzles in particular. I won't spoil, but for anybody who's played this, one involved a table, and the other one involved lots of rearranging of cards, shall we say, rearranging of routes. So if anyone recognises those 2 puzzles, fair enough. But there were those 2 puzzles in particular where I couldn't figure out how they got to the answer. I sort of thought, right, well, I've got so far, and I think it's that, is it? Okay, I give up. I'll take the solution. You can get the solution, and you can just move on to the next puzzle. The problem was, it just tells you the solution. That's it. Doesn't tell you how it got to the solution. You get the couple of hints, but it doesn't say, right, the final solution is done by doing this, with this, rearrange this, and voila, there's your answer. That is very annoying because in the exit ones, I think it tells you how it gets there, or at least I believe it does, and unlock, I know it does. So most escape room games will at least tell you how it gets to a place, but this one doesn't, and that's very, very frustrating because I still, to this day, do not know how it works out those 2 puzzles. How did it get to that particular word? How did it count that much in there? Where's the number? What do you mean, look at it in a weird way? What weird way? I mean, what are you getting at? And it's annoying if you get a puzzle that you can't solve. I've been on the internet, can't find the answer on BGG because there's not very many threads on here. So don't think that you're going to be finding a ton of answers to these questions on Board Game Geek, they don't really exist. So that's a bit annoying, and I would like to hope that in future releases they improve on that. They've already had another one since, Low Memory, but if they're going to do future ones beyond that, I hope they take the feedback and actually put some proper solutions in there. But overall, I found the puzzles to be relatively good challenge. I didn't think I had to be someone from Mensa in order to solve them, but I also didn't think I was just breezing through the puzzles. In fact, I dare say I was in a hurry to get through some of the puzzles because I was kind of trying to get into the story, but more in that later. So, yeah, all in all, pretty sound if you like puzzles and riddles, and I thought that even though they were more math-orientated, I thought there was still a good variety of puzzles, some that I kind of remember from my childhood as well. I think there's one called the jumping boxes, or what is it called? Or jumping squares, I think the term is called. I saw those when I was young, and you get one of those in here. So it's nice that there's a good amount of variety in there. And the way they use the cards to their advantage is good. And I also recommend you always, I don't care how dedicated you are to being like, I'll solve this with no help, click the button that tells you how many cards you need. Because if you don't, you are going to be very frustrated. There is nothing more annoying than spending ages trying to solve a puzzle and not realizing that you're 1 card short to solve it. Because that's just, why? Why can't it just tell me that I need 5 cards to solve this puzzle? And I found 3 or 4 of them. Alright, I found only 3 cards out of 4. I can't solve this puzzle. Okay, I can move on to a different area because there's multiple ways to get out of a location. You don't have to do every puzzle So why can't you just tell me how much I need? And if I have what I need, now I'll try and solve it. There's no harm in pressing that button. I did it on every single puzzle, and believe me, it doesn't make your life any easier by clicking on it. It's really nothing to be ashamed of. So going on to aesthetics, aesthetics are kind of standard, really. I mean, it's a bunch of cards. The cover is cool. I mean, the cover certainly got me interested with like, ooh, what's going on here with this whole like, seance thing here. But the board and the cards are fairly standard in terms of their quality. The app itself is nothing like to write home about. There's no ambient music, no voiceovers, nothing to really add to the atmosphere. But the artwork is decent enough on the cards. It's not graphic in the sense of any gore or anything like that, but there's definitely decent artwork on the cards. But you're playing an escape room. Do you really care that much about the aesthetics? The cards are decent enough quality. They won't and you don't destroy this game. I suppose that's worth mentioning. As much as I'll get onto longevity a bit later, you do not stick pencils through cards or rip them up or anything like that, or fold them in weird ways. So everything that I have played in here is intact. And even though I am now done with the game, I could sell this on to another person or donate it to a cafe and someone else could play it. Not a problem. There's nothing marked on any of the things in here, so this is not a destructible escape room game. So immersion is actually probably the best part of this game, and I wasn't expecting this. It claimed to have multiple endings and stuff like that, but this is the best narrative I have seen woven into an escape room game ever. The exit rooms, who cares? I mean, they tried to put a story in the exit room games, but it makes no difference. It's just go from A to B to C to D and do a puzzle. That's all it is. Unlock tries, but the stories are kind of short. They're kind of all over the shop, and Unlock is decent. It's probably the second best for these. Deckscape doesn't really have much of a story, nor do the other escape room games, but this one, I was actually at some point more interested in the story than I was the actual puzzles. It's pretty good. But a caveat to some people. This is a dark story. This is involving, not to give spoilers, but things that are in this story. A cult, obviously, because you're basically dealing with like a Necronomicon ritual book, but there is stuff pointing to suicide, drug use, single parenthood, trying to think of the names of certain other things, but it's pretty dark. And essentially what you might as well just call hell, in a sense. There's some pretty dark stuff in here. Now for me, great, because, I don't know, I seem to like that kind of thing in stories. I like dark stories. I'm a huge fan of Black Mirror, that was on Netflix before, and it's like, you watch them, some of those stories can make you very uncomfortable. But I loved how uncomfortable they made me, because it just made you think. It made you realise that, I like it when a story does not have to have a shiny Disney princess ending. And this doesn't either. This has a good amount of endings, about 8 or 9, I think, different endings in here. And not to spoil, but do not go into this thinking that you will achieve the, that's so happy, everybody's nice, la 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 ending.
Well, this time John Wayne does not walk off into the sunset with Grace Kelly.
Not gonna happen, trust me. The first ending I did, I thought, wow, dark. It's like, that hurts after what I've been through. And then I played through it one more time, but I skipped through a bunch of the puzzles I'd already done, did a few others and got a different ending, which was still pretty dark. It's like I think there's one ending that feels more like a sequel bait than it does a good ending. It's like a bittersweet ending, and the rest of them are just nasty. They're just nasty endings for somebody anyway. But the one that's supposed to be the good ending sounds like a sequel bait thing. It kind of reminded me of the ending to the Super Mario Brothers movie, where like out of nowhere the princess just turns up and says, "You're not going to believe this." It's like, "We gotta go," and then roll credits. It felt like that. It's like, it's all over. But no, we've still got to do this. Roll credits. It's like, what? It's like, that's not a good ending. But, that, like, minor weird niggles aside, I was really engrossed in the story. It gives you story-based choices to make. At certain times, it will say, choose A or B, and you're like, oh god, I really don't know which choice to make. B, go with it. And you're not going to turn back. But this helps to give it a bit of immersion and a bit of interest. I mean, this definitely has the best narrative I've had. I mean, even if it wasn't about a dark story, I feel that any story with this kind of writing and this kind of involvement will be a plus, and it makes me want to play the low memory one if the story is anywhere near as engrossing as this one. I just sort of got hooked onto it, but maybe it was to do with the dark theme, and I must admit, if you're not into that kind of thing and you don't want to be triggered, or whatever the word might be, for some of the stuff in here, then maybe be a little bit hesitant. But I don't think there's too much in here that I think is going to offend people. But there just might be some subject areas, as the ones I mentioned, which you might not sit comfortably with. So just bear that in mind. And then finally, longevity. Longevity, it says you can have repeat plays. You'll get maybe one more play out of this game, and then I think you'll be done. So I was done, really. I mean, the first game will be like the best game you'll play of the whole lot, but you will not see every puzzle. You will not be able to even solve every puzzle because you won't have collected all the bits in previous rooms, which I kind of liked. It adds for the ability to go back and try them. But you'll see puzzles you've already seen, so you'll have to gloss over those and just quickly do them again. And essentially, the only reason you're replaying it is to see a few of the other puzzles and to get a different ending. And so I did. I played through it, tried some different puzzles, enjoyed them, barely took even half the time to play as the first attempt, maybe even like a third of the time, and got a different ending. But after that point, you're kind of done. You're not really going to be wanting to play this a third time to find the one or two puzzles you might have missed and try a different ending. At that point, you go onto Board Game Geek and you look at the spoiler sections on some of the things and just find out what the endings are, or you just browse through the paragraph book and find them out for yourself. And I did, so I have spoiled the whole game for myself, and like I said, don't expect a nice happy ending. But I could have ended up with worse endings, although I don't know, define worse? It's hard to say. But yeah, actually, there are one or two endings that I think were actually worse than the ones I got with. So I kind of got middle of the road, but the first one I got was, yeah, that was harsh. I mean, I don't want to spoil. No, I can't spoil it. That's too harsh. But yeah, like I said, I came across some dark stuff. I felt it was kind of evil. Like, oh, that's an evil ending. Yeah, it's like Disney evil. But yeah, all in all, 2 plays you should be able to get out of this. 1 at least, really fun play, and then possibly a second run through. So all in all, this is actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be. The niggles I have with this game are fairly minor. You know, there's a good length. You know, it's not done and dusted within 60 minutes. It's a good narrative, even if you have to concede with the theme maybe not being for you. It's got plenty of puzzles, even though they're more math-centric. That's good for me, but I feel like most puzzles are kind of math-centric anyway, for the most part. But there was a good variety of them. I felt, oh, that's different, that's different, that's different. As I said, great narrative. Really, the improvements I can suggest, like having a proper final solution and having more ambient music, say, with the app, or some voiceovers, that kind of thing. And that's pretty minor niggles. I mean, there's not a huge amount to fault with this game. It's definitely, I think, my favourite of the escape room games I have played. I have played all the ones that I've mentioned before I've played, and I'm getting burnt out on exits. I haven't played an unlocked game in a fair while. I got bored with Dexgate pretty quickly. This one, I'm like, I'd like to acquire low memory and give that one a play. I legitimately would, and I would like to see what else this kind of style of escape room game can do, because I don't just want the puzzles, I want a narrative as well. But then I don't want just a storybook, because then I might as well just buy a book. I want some interesting, thought-provoking puzzles to link in with it. So, all in all, I think if you like escape room games, give this one a try. I'm giving this one a solid 9 out of 10, and a definite seal of distinction, I believe, because it just, for all the points I've said, this is definitely my favourite escape room franchise game that I've all played, and that's got to be pretty high praise. I feel that my negatives are fairly minor and could be easily fixed if Board and Dice are willing to do it, but I had a good time. I enjoyed my time with it. I was able to give it a second play, which, how many other escape room games can you give a second playthrough? You know, be honest. You know, the fact that it managed to achieve twice as many plays as every other escape room game I've played is pretty impressive. You gotta give it that. So, yeah, 9 out of 10 for Escape Tales The Awakening by Board and Dice. And that's it for me for this one. So, See you on the next Broken Meeple video. Hope you enjoyed what you see. Subscribe to the Patreon, the channel, Facebook, Twitter me, whatever. And thank you all for supporting me through like isolation and everything. It's been great. So I'll see you on the next review video. And regardless of whether you require a Necronomicon to sort out your problems, it's still only a game. So take care. I'll see you soon.